no one would be here without a woman. Literally all of you came out of a woman. So let's stop the oppression of women, okay? Thank you. Hello beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking to watch this video. Today we're going to be doing another episode of Makeup and History, yeah. Makeup and History is a series here on my channel where I put on makeup while talking about a historical event, a scandal from the past, or a person that I just find fascinating. Last week we talked about Richard Nixon and the Watergate scandal, which is eerily similar to the current administration. If you haven't seen that video yet, please go and check it out. For today's video, I wanted to do something a bit more lighthearted. I feel like the last two uploads that I've had have been a bit dense. So today we're going to be talking about the history of Wonder Woman. I watched the new Wonder Woman movie over the holidays and I was very fascinated by the origin story. I'd never heard it before, so I wanted to look into this more and understand it more. If you haven't already and you would like to, please subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so that you're notified every single time I upload a video. All right, let's put on some makeup and get into this story. Alright guys, so we're a bit closer now and my brows are already done. I did my brows off camera. I know there are going to be people who think I should do a Wonder Woman look with the Wonder Woman story, and I know, I get it, but I'm not a costume makeup person. Like, I've tried it before. It takes too much, like it's just too much for me. I'm already trying to get the story right as well as make the makeup look nice, so I'm not going to add on costume makeup on top of that. I just can't. I'm not gonna do it. But I am going to try and do something a bit similar to a Wonder Woman look, like a wearable Wonder Woman look. Product information will be linked down in the description box below. And per usual, if you're familiar with this story or you know facts about Wonder Woman and the start of Wonder Woman, please feel free to fact check me down in the comments below, as well as include any additional information that I don't say or forget to say. Wonder Woman 1985 just came out over the holidays, and that is what sparked my interest to do this video, is watching that movie. And honestly, I didn't love the movie. Like, I feel like the plot of the movie was a bit rushed. It wasn't really well thought out. It wasn't a bad movie, but not a movie that I'm really eager to ever see again. I did, however, like the beginning of the movie where they kind of went through, like, it was like a flashback of Diana's childhood. So Wonder Woman's real name is Diana, and there's a scene in the movie at the beginning of the movie where it's showing where she came from and where she grew up. And it's basically this island of all women that are like superheroes. Well, to us, they're superheroes because they're really, really strong and really fast and really pretty. Everyone's like so pretty. But I was fascinated by this scene in the movie, and I wanted to learn more about the origin story of Wonder Woman. So today that's what we're going to be talking about. We're also going to be talking about the guy who created Wonder Woman and his inspiration behind the comic idea. It's great. It is very good. Very interesting. The first Wonder Woman comic appeared in 1941, and the origin story is about a girl named Diana from the land of Themyscira. I don't know how to say that correctly, but I will put it on the screen. Also known as Paradise Island. Diana is part of the Amazon race, so she is an Amazon, and the Amazons are basically like Greek gods. They're very strong, powerful, and beautiful beings. The entire island is all women, and it's very harmonious and beautiful and lovely. It's wonderful. It's a great place. The Amazons learn about all of the war and the terrible things going on in man's world, aka this world, our world. So the Amazons gift man's world Diana to help fight the injustice and to teach man's world about compassion and living in harmony, basically. So Diana comes into man's world as Wonder Woman, and she becomes a symbol of truth, justice, and equality for everyone. Her mission was to show man's world what it's like to live in a place without war, when everyone's in harmony, everyone's just chilling. That was her mission. I don't think man's world got the memo though, because they're still just bugging out. Like, what is wrong? Why is there so much chaos all the time? When Wonder Woman was first introduced in 1941, she was seen as a feminist icon. She was seen as being just as powerful as Superman, as patriotic as Captain America. She was also sexy. She was like sexually liberated. She was intelligent and strong, and some believe she may have even been bisexual because she came from a land of all women. It's like, if it's all women there, then what are they doing? I don't know. It's just a theory. The guy who created Wonder Woman was a man named Moulton Marston. He went by the alias Charles Moulton, and he was a very progressive man for his time. We're gonna call him Charles. Charles created Wonder Woman because he wanted a strong, positive role model that was a woman for young girls and boys to look up to. The character of Wonder Woman was inspired by the women in his personal life, which we will get into. But Charles also advocated for things like homosexuality, transgender identity, fetishism, all things that during this time were unheard of. All right, so let's get in our time machine and go back and talk about who Charles was. What was his life like? How did he become this progressive, cool bro for his time? You know, because back then, nobody had rights. Nobody. Only one demographic in this country had rights. We all know who that is. I'm not going to say it. But Charles was a part of that demographic. So what about him made him want to open that up for everyone else, you know? Who was he? Who was Charles? Let's go back. Let's get in our time machine and go back. All right, put your seatbelt on. All right, folks, we're here. We're in 1893. 1893. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what 1893 is. All right, so May 9th, 1893, William Charles Moulton Marston was born in Cliftondale Village, Massachusetts. His parents were Frederick Marston and Annie Dalton, and they were very wealthy. He grew up in a castle in Massachusetts. A castle in Massachusetts. In the 19th century. Very rich. Growing up, Charles was intelligent. He got really good grades. He was the class president. He was the captain of his football team. He was very popular. He was also a white male. So he had all of it. Charles had a very comfortable childhood. After graduating high school, Charles attended Harvard University, and this was the first time in his life he actually faced any hardship. Charles began struggling with his grades at Harvard, which was new to him. He'd always really excelled in school, and he was really intelligent, so this was really hard for him, and for the first time, he felt inadequate. His parents also cut him off financially, so he no longer had the financial support of his parents, which was also a first, and that was really hard for him. Charles was going through it. Okay, he was trying to figure it out, as we all are. Having to face so many hardships for the first time in his life, Charles even considered killing himself. He was suicidal for a while because he just, it was hard. He was always so used to being good at school, being wealthy, and now for the first time in his life, it was all stripped away of him. He was really struggling. So he contemplated killing himself, but he didn't go through with it. Charles decided that he was going to give this life thing another go and try and figure it out. And he actually found a subject in school that he really was drawn to. He began taking a class on ancient philosophy, and the professor in his class was a widower to a suffragist movement activist. The suffragist movement is what's known as the first wave of feminism. So the professor was very strongly advocating for women's rights during this time, which is like the early 1900s, like 1915 or something. I don't know. But women didn't have a lot of rights then. So when Charles took this class, his mind was open to men and women being treated equally, and he was very, very interested in this. So Charles really liked this class, and he really liked the professor, and he liked what he was teaching them, even though Harvard at the time was an all-male institution. So there was no women allowed in this class where the teacher's talking about equal rights for men and women. There was no women allowed at Harvard. But anyways, being that his parents had cut him off financially, Charles began looking for ways to make money. Charles began entering into various contests at his campus to earn money. He entered into a contest where you created your own invention and you won money based on how good your invention was. And his was really good. He created the first lie detector test, which worked, and he tried to sell it to the government, but they weren't interested. Charles also discovered during this time that he had an interest in filmmaking and screenplay writing. So he entered in a film contest, which he won. And the prize money that he won, he used to buy an engagement ring for his girlfriend at the time, Elizabeth Holloway. Elizabeth went by the nickname Sadie, so we're gonna call her Sadie. Charles and Sadie had known each other since they were children. They grew up in the same social circle. They had no interest in one another until they got to university, but they had known each other their entire lives. Sadie had also come from a very wealthy family, and her parents were really progressive. They really pushed education on all of their children, boy or girl, and they wanted Sadie to get a degree, but they never thought she would do anything but be a wife. They wanted her to get an education, but they still just wanted her to be a wife, which for that time was normal. Cydnee, however, really liked to work and she was very intelligent. She was smart enough and qualified enough to attend Harvard University, but she didn't have, you know, a penis. So she attended the equivalent to Harvard, which was an all-girls school called Mount Oak College, and there she excelled in math, Greek, and philosophy. It's said that Cydnee was even smarter than Charles. She loved working and helped him with pretty much everything. She even helped him create the lie detector test. Charles saw Cydnee as his absolute equal, and he asked her to marry him, and she did. All right, so we'll fast forward a little bit. Charles and Cydnee both receive law degrees, and then Charles goes on to receive his PhD in psychology. He gets a job teaching at a military school in Georgia, and they become pregnant with their first child. So while teaching in Georgia, Charles meets a woman by the name of Marjorie Huntley, and she is the campus librarian. Not much is known about Marjorie. She was a very mysterious woman, so she kept her identity pretty under wraps. There's no record of her. I love that for her. So Charles and Marjorie become friends, and Marjorie is a very free-spirited person. She's a spiritualist who believes in reincarnation and free love and love binding, and she teaches Charles all of these concepts. Charles is very fascinated by all of this. He's like, wow, this is crazy. And it makes him realize or learn the psychological powers that women have through connecting with love. He's never heard this before. It's crazy. Eventually, the two begin having an affair, and Charles falls in love with her. And I know what you're thinking right now. Like, how could he do that? How could he do that to Cydnee? I thought Cydnee was his equal. Why would he cheat on Cydnee? Well, he tells Cydnee about his relationship with Marjorie, and surprisingly, she's perfectly okay with it. She's like, all right, cool, yeah, sure. Marjorie and Cydnee become friends, and the three of them enter into a polyamorous relationship. Polyamorous relationships are relationships with which you have more than one intimate partner. The word comes from the Latin term poly, which means many, and amor, which means love. But all of the partners in the relationship have to be consenting. So they all have to know about each other and agree to be, in this thing, which is interesting. I watched this documentary about polyamorous relationships, and I honestly just felt exhausted. Like, it really is just having intimate relationships with multiple people. I think most people just assume that it's about a lot of sex, but no, it's sure, a lot of sex, but a lot of arguments, a lot of negotiating, a lot of compromising. It's a lot of love. I see the benefits, but it seems exhausting to me. I don't know. Either way, all three of them were consenting, and so they enter into a polyamorous relationship, which in the 1920s was unheard of, so they had to keep it a secret. All right, so the three of them are just living their lives in their polyamorous relationship. It's still mainly just Charles and Cydnee who are living together. Marjorie was a free spirit, so she came and went as she pleased. She was there sometimes she wasn't. Marjorie was just living her life. Charles begins working at Tufts University as a professor, and he hires a research assistant by the name of Olivia Brine. Olivia was in school studying to be a doctor, and Charles needed help researching for his new book about sexual freedom called Emotions of Normal People. The book was going to cover topics on sexual freedom about homosexuality, transgender identity, fetishism, all things that were very taboo for that time. Charles's goal for the book was to destigmatize some of these topics and to inform people that they were normal. These were normal things. Olivia turned out to be the perfect research assistant for this job because she herself was a very sexually liberated woman. Her aunt was a woman named Margaret Sanger, who was the inventor of Planned Parenthood. She was also a very racist woman and sterilized a lot of black women against their will during that time. So, she was a terrible person, but she was a staunch feminist who really liberated women with birth control. And she taught Olivia the importance of reproductive rights, sexual freedom, and just being a strong, independent woman, So Olivia was a very sexually liberated young woman, which again, for that time was not common. She was also a little freaky. Freaky zeeky. Olivia began taking Charles to orgies and sex parties that were happening with the students on campus for research. And at these parties, Charles learned what the young kids were doing. He also learned more about kinks and fetishes. It wasn't long before Olivia and Charles began, practicing their research. And Charles asked Olivia if she wanted to be in a committed relationship with him and his other two girlfriends. whatever. Olivia said yes, and she became a permanent member of the household, along with Sadie. Marjorie was still coming and going as she pleased, but Sadie and Olivia were permanent wives in the house, essentially. Olivia did graduate and get her master's degree, but she didn't go on to be a doctor. Instead, she stayed home and cared for all of their children while Sadie worked. Sadie continued working. Also, let's stop for a minute and appreciate this brush. This is the Wonder Woman brush, which I thought was perfect for this video. How cute is this? It's from Luxie Beauty. Love. All right, so Charles and his 3 companions are all living together happily ever after, I assume. I don't know, I wasn't there. They all seemed really happy and they had relationships with one another. All of the women would continue living together even after Charles died, so it seemed as though they were all there by choice, you know? It wasn't like a pimp daddy situation. I don't know why I said that. Anyways, you might be asking yourself, why is this relevant? Who cares, Cydnee? The reason this is relevant is because we're talking about the history of Wonder Woman. And Charles, the creator of Wonder Woman, used his experience and his relationships with the women in his lives to create Wonder Woman. They were all the inspiration behind Wonder Woman, which I think is fascinating. Isn't that fascinating? Charles had surrounded himself with very free and versatile women, and he noticed that this was lacking in representation. So he wanted to create a strong, positive role model for both girls and boys to see this in the media, which I think is very fucking cool, Charles. Thank you, Charles. He learned the best way to do this was to create a comic, so he created Wonder Woman. So the first Wonder Woman comic debuted in 1941 and it was a hit. People really loved it. People loved that Wonder Woman was strong and fierce, but also compassionate and just, and she was sexy. Wonder Woman had it all. She had it all. In the back of the Wonder Woman comics, Charles would include a 4-page mini comic that talked about real life feminists of the time. So he would give like informative little mini comics so kids could learn about real women in the real world doing real things. And this little series was called Women in History. I think that that's a really cool idea, considering that comics were kind of all that kids had then. Like now they have the internet and video games and all that. But then this was like the medium that kids use. So if you wanted to get to kids and teach them something, you did it with comics. So the debut of Wonder Woman was pretty successful, and between 1941 and 1947 is what's considered the golden age of Wonder Woman. The golden age ends in 1947, however, because Charles dies of cancer at the age of 53. During the 1950s and 60s, the country went through a lot of changes that affected all types of media, and something called the comic codes was invented to kind of restrict the storylines so that they didn't resemble communism. If you watch my videos about JFK or Richard Nixon, then you know that communism during the 1950s and 60s was a big deal. It was no communism. None of it. Unacceptable. So the comic codes were invented to prevent communism from getting into the comics. Some of the comic codes included things like no weaponry, real or fake, no supernatural iconography. I don't know what iconography means, but either way, a lot of what Wonder Woman was had to be taken out because it wasn't real, quote unquote. After the death of Charles, Sadie, his first wife, asked the publisher if she could take over writing for the comic, since she had a hand in creating it. She'd been there since the very beginning. I don't know if anyone knew Charles better than Sadie, so she kind of seemed like the perfect fit for the job, but they told her no. Instead, the writing position was given to a man named Mike Esposito. They told Sadie no and instead gave it to Mike, and this would be known as the Silver Age of the Wonder Woman comic. The Silver Age of the Wonder Woman comic was between 1958 and 1972, and to summarize it, it was trash. It was garbage. The Silver Age was garbage. Firstly, they removed the Women in History section of the comic and replaced it with something called Curious Courtships. So instead of talking about real women in history and feminists, they switched it to talk about dating and feminine things. Oh no, girls are going to be reading this? Let's not remind them that they can do things and achieve things. Let's talk about what's important. Dating, which is infuriating. That is infuriating. The Silver Age also introduced a romantic interest for Wonder Woman, which before that she didn't have one. She was just kind of like minding her business. But during the Silver Age, she had to have a love interest, right? Like she has to have a man. What is this? Trash. She also lost all of her powers because of the comic code, so she became a secret agent who didn't have any powers or anything. She was just, you know, secret agent with a man. So basically, due to the comic codes and misogyny, the Silver Age was horrible. It was terrible. It took out everything everyone loved about Wonder Woman. Garbage. All right, so the Silver Age ends and the Bronze Age starts when feminist icon Gloria Steinem asked for the original storyline of Wonder Woman to come back. Gloria founded the magazine Miss Magazine, and in 1972, she featured Wonder Woman on the cover and asked for the original storyline and abilities of Wonder Woman to come back into mainstream. Gloria stated that the original Wonder Woman embodied everything that the feminist movement was trying to bring to the mainstream. She was a symbol of strength and self-reliance for women. She promoted mutual support among women. She also promoted peacefulness and esteem for human life. And these were all things that everyone should want. Why doesn't everyone want this? Tell me why. Why is this like rocket science? I don't understand. I wasn't alive for the 70s though, so I don't know, but it still seems like it's a bit of an issue for people to grasp even today, but I digress. So the Bronze Age of Wonder Woman brought back the original storyline that she was from the Amazon race and it was an all-woman island. She had magical powers. They also introduced her twin sister, who was a black character named Nubia. I don't know how they were twins, but they're from the Paradise Island. Who knows? I love it. I love this. Let's mix it all up. Let's get a little diverse in there. I love that. Wonder Woman is still in the Bronze Age right now, and as you know, they just released the movie over the holidays. I didn't see the first Wonder Woman movie that came out a couple years ago, but I heard that one was really good. Gal Gadot is the actress who plays Wonder Woman now, and she says that she would be open to considering the bisexual part of Wonder Woman, her identity as a bisexual person. Hopefully they include Nubia in the movies. That would be really cool to see, her black twin sister. Like, that's fun. Why not? Let's just do all of the things. All right, you guys, that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed learning all of this stuff. I think it's fascinating to learn about the women's liberation movement and just to learn about how women have been empowered throughout the centuries. I think we still have a long way to go. I'm very privileged to live in the United States where I enjoy a lot of freedoms that I know women in other countries don't enjoy, and other cultures are still very, very oppressive towards women. It really is unfortunate, but I think it's important to know and understand these little histories and people throughout history who have done things to inspire women to be strong and independent and just as equal to men in society, because we deserve that. Are you kidding me? Kidding me? No one would be here without a woman. Literally all of you came out of a woman, so let's stop the oppression of women, okay? Thank you. Shout out to Charles for creating this. He grew up with all of the privileges and advantages in life that he didn't have to do this, but he was inspired enough by the people in his life, the women in his life, to do this, so shout out to him. He died at the age of 53 from cancer, and Sadie, Marjorie, and Olivia continued living together. They adopted each other's children, and they lived as the modern day Golden Girls. They lived together until the day they died, which is really cute. All right, you guys, that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed this topic. I know it was a bit random and off topic, but I thought it was fun, you know, a little lighthearted, not so political because I can't, but I hope it was still informative and fun. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up because it helps my channel out a lot. I thoroughly appreciate you guys commenting and interacting with my videos as well because that helps me too. I love you so much. I love you. Stick around and watch another one of my videos. I would greatly appreciate that. Watch another one. Watch another one. I will see you in the next video.